This is the Hot Metal Brand Podcast. I'm your host, Martin Sully, founder of Snapper Studio, a brand strategy and visual design studio in the heart of Newcastle, Australia. And I'm on a mission to help you gain clarity in your brand and confidence in what you're selling. From thoughtful, empowering brand strategies to defining powerful visual stories, I'll arm you with bite-sized branding tools to help you grow your brand and leave your own unique mark. Martin, when should I rebrand and how much does a rebrand cost? I regularly get asked these types of questions, and there's a bunch of things to consider first. So I want to give you a little bit of context and tell you one reason where you might want to consider a rebrand. I've been working with a client for about 5 years. I've designed them websites, sales documents, advertising, I've photographed them, and overall I've managed their 2 brands. So this is nothing unusual. But these 2 businesses work hand in hand with one another, and one of the businesses is completely shifting away from what they originally did. It's aligning closer to the second business, but they are still distinctly different. Well, anyway, so they are thinking of merging and creating one stronger brand, and so that they can cut down on admin and position themselves for the next evolution of the business. And that's expected over the next 2 to 3 years. So we've had chats, and one idea was pitched to me that they simply take the current brand, so the original stronger brand, and morph the old second brand into it, giving you 2 almost identical brands. Now, this is a massive red flag no-no. The one thing, instead of making a brand that stands out, is what you'll actually end up with is weakening the position of both of them so that neither of them stand out as much as they should. So there's definite pitfalls to rebranding, and this is where working with somebody that can kind of logically see the downsides and the pros and cons, this is helpful. What I would typically suggest to do is sit down and work through a strategy workshop, and that's the point we're up to currently. But another facet to this story is they have also approached other branding agencies and creative agencies to get their opinion on it, not because they don't trust me, but they want to make sure that what I'm suggesting to them makes sense and that other people actually agree with it. So yeah, they were getting quoted. Okay, I'm not going to give you the exact figures, but ballpark $50,000 to $80,000, and it is somewhere pitched in the middle of that sort of area. Now, I suspect the figures that they've got to, and the figure that they got to from these quotes, is based on strategy, identity design, website build, and rollout of new collateral. So this will be things like signage and there's a lot of other bits and pieces. So all those sales documents that we've previously mentioned, they would all have to be redone. New advertising would have to be thought about and worked into this new brand. So there's a lot of work, but I'd suggest they're probably playing a bit of a, big agency premium. Now, one thing that you can really kind of help you work out whether you need to actually rebrand or whether it's just something you kind of feel like you should do, or, to keep up with competitors, or there's a lot of circumstances that you might feel like it's the right time for you to rebrand, and we'll get to them later. But one thing you need to ask yourself is, what's my biggest single challenge right now? And how do I overcome it? But you might be pleasantly surprised to know that I've actually been in this position myself. So I started a company called Martin Sully Design back in 2014, and I purely focused on design. I was working with a lot of clients, but gradually I found myself doing a lot more photography because it was a service I wanted to add in, and it actually fits in beautifully with branding. So that was another service that I wanted to add in. But what I also found myself doing was event photography. So I was going out and integrating with the community and the business community. And I found that actually, as a knock-on effect from this, was whilst people got to know me, the perception that I was a photographer came about. And now I wanted to shift this and make sure that I was still seen as a designer primarily. So the only sensible thing to do was to change the name and reposition the studio to reflect that I was a full service creative agency, not just a designer and not just a photographer. So yeah, the name Martin Sully Design no longer fit, which is where Snapper Studio came from, because it kind of blended the two together. But so yeah, spelling out your problem is the simplest way to find a solution. So that's why you need to ask yourself, what's my biggest single challenge right now, and how do you overcome it? So yeah, just be brutally and painfully honest with where you are as a brand, where you are as a business. And sometimes it is really difficult to know whether a brand revolution or an evolution is the right step. So yeah, how do you know when it's the right time to rebrand? This is like the core of this episode. The rest of that was just context, and now we're getting into the actual episode. So a brand is about redesigning or rewriting your story. It's about revamping who the brand is and how you want to be perceived by peers, customers, and everyone in between. There's 20 signs that you might spot that you might go, do you know what? Yeah, this makes me feel like I need a rebrand. I'm ready. Or so yeah. Okay, let's go from 1 to 20. And I promise you, some of them are pretty like, whoa. Okay, number 1, you cringe at your brand name. Number 2, you don't like your brand's aesthetics. Number 3, you're embarrassed to show off your brand. Number 4, you've lost confidence in selling your products and services. Number 5, your brand no longer represents who you are. Number 6, your brand isn't original or authentic. Number 7, you don't stand out from competitors. Number 8, your business model or strategy has changed. Number 9, you want to attract a new market. Number 10, you're struggling to attract your new market. Number 11, you want to raise prices. Number 12, you're struggling to attract the right talent. Number 13, your brand is lacking an emotional response. Number 14, you need to disassociate your brand from negative press. Number 15, your brand is confusing. Number 16, you find yourself apologizing for having a bad website. Number 17, you don't send your website link proudly. Number 18, your branding is a patchwork of styles from different designers. Number 19, you DIY'd your brand, but you want to take it to the next level. And number 20, you find it hard to explain what your brand means. Now, I think those last 4 or 5, website, patchwork of branding, and DIY'd, and you've lost what what your brand means. They are they're 20 really strong signs that maybe it is time for maybe it is time for a rebrand. And as for the costs, that's going to entirely depend on the amount of work needed to solve the problems that you're defining. So yeah, if you sheepishly answered yes to any of those signs that you might want to rebrand, I have 15-minute free vision call slots open on my website right now. So jump on, but have a quick chat with me. Tell me which of these bits and pieces resonate with you, and whether we can get to a solution. It won't necessarily be on the call, but I might be able to point you in the right direction. And yeah, I will drop a note into the show notes as well to go straight into booking a call. So yeah, remember, you don't necessarily have to go through and be looking at all those 20 signs, but if you can answer that one question right at the towards the start, what's my biggest single challenge right now and how do I overcome it? You'll be well on your way.